Good morning, everybody. Can you please take your seats? We're getting a late start. All right. Good morning. The June 13th, Friday the 13th Board of Directors meeting is called to order. First, I'd like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Interpreter, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, the world, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, that interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and the homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, Dueño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land is nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michael, can you please confirm quorum?
We do have a quorum, Chair, but we also have virtual participation.
Can you please go over that attendee procedure?
Sure. That virtual participant is Deputy Mayor Katie Melendez from Vista. Deputy Mayor, could you please confirm for us that you were able to leave your camera on throughout the course of the meeting?
Yes. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Is there anybody over the age of 18 in the room with you? And if so, could you please state their relationship to you?
No.
Could you briefly describe the reason for your remote participation this morning without disclosing any medical information?
Yes. So I'm participating remotely today because I want to avoid spreading any communicable illness. And I appreciate the opportunity to participate virtually.
Thank you. That does qualify for remote participation, so we can go ahead and go with the roll call, Chair.
Very good.
For City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Shin.
We're doing attendance.
Oh, present. Oh, all together.
Michael, do we need to do attendance now or not?
No, we don't.
No, okay, all right. Okay, we'll do roll calls when we vote. All right, so let's move on to non-agenda public comments.
We have 4 in person so far, Chair, and 3 online. First is Prieta Javier, followed by Cesar Javier.
Good morning. I am Prieta A. Javier. We formally reported the health and safety hazards on June 13, 2021, starting with the 911, SDPD, fire sheriff, hazmat, City Code Enforcement D9 Councilor Rivera, who later known as member of the
Governing,
government,
governing board,
huh?
governing board,
Governing,
governing board,
governing board,
air pollution control district. Okay,
Mayor Gloria,
another governing board member,
governing board member, who?
here now.
Oh, Councilor Luqadda, Chair of Environmental Committee,
Assemblyman, assemblyman,
Assemblyman David Alvarez, Congressman Juan Vargas, including heads of Mission, the Alcala, and now Creation Church and Pentecostal Church. In June 2022, we set feet at the APCD headquarters and began our education as the premier agency with the authority and responsibility of the clean air for all, rich or poor
Thank you. Your time has
humans.
expired. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra.
to this day, this very hour, pain and suffering continues. Physically, emotionally, because 25 feet away, we sense the presence of that toxic generating stationary emission. And the owner renewed the business tax permit. From a senior point of view, when we say permit, you're allowed to practice your profession, yes. But it is implied, directly means you should do it safely. Without annoying, without impacting the health of your fellow residents. It is a violation of land use law, or the use of the, variance. You cannot just locate anything in the neighborhood without ensuring safety, welfare, health. It is also a violation of the state environment and land use on nuisance. Don't ever distract, don't ever bar your fellow citizens enjoy their life in their humble home. And most of all, as we discern, it's a violation of social justice, equity. It's only, as of this date, Kensington, Talmadge area, where one is also known doing this, aside from our community, West Bank of Cholas. 2, hazardous.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Truth.
Free speech rights and such, but repeating the rhetoric of that there is an invasion on the border, that there is criminals on the border, that what the actions of federal government is anywhere connected with what federal law and the Constitution says.
All right. I already talked to the executive committee about this, but it's important to be talking to you guys about this because the rhetoric that Luqadda is spewing is very dangerous. And the rest of you that are spewing the same kind of language about what was actually taking place on the border and what's taking place now in our nation and what's set to take place tomorrow could be potentially very damaging to San Diego. What is happening with these riots, people looting, people destroying property and harming individuals because they don't like that the federal government is coming in and holding these people accountable. The problem is that the federal government actually needs to hold all of the public officials accountable. So what happened to Alex Padilla? Good thing. It needs to happen to more politicians who encouraged the invasion on our border, encouraged criminals to come across, encouraged the children to go missing, and continue to try to bait and switch, pull wool over the people's eyes, and act like it's something that it isn't. And if something happens in San Diego tomorrow and across the nation, because there's potentially set to be some really violent things that take place, as we've already seen in LA, you guys are going to be at fault for that because you did nothing to stop it. You continue to do nothing to stand against it. In fact, you're impeding ICE's ability to come in and do their job when you asked them and told them that it's their job to take care of it. So it is detrimental to the people that you represent to continue down that same path. And it will lead you into a jail cell. So you have some pretty significant choices to make moving forward.
Thank you. Next is Truth, followed by Paul the Bold online.
I found what comes across as huge
Lo que viene
conflicts of
como un
interest.
conflicto de interés.
Can you restart my time, please? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, I found what comes across as huge
Bueno.
conflicts of interest, interpreter.
Mi-
It is incredibly concerning to find that
mi
the
interés es
that
que
MTS, the
encontrar
board.
que
Oh man,
What is going on?
we're having
We
an
have
issue.
interpretation conflict here. Just a moment.
Okay, hold on. Truth will restart your time.
This is really important. Oh, okay. It's just so important. We had to wait for it. Okay. So I found that MTS, the port who's supposed to represent IB, Cordoba, who SANDAG said deals with, Deloitte, who got that lucrative sole source monopoly contract from you guys, SIMSA, who Carolina works for, and even SANDAG itself for all members of the Otay Mesa Chamber of Commerce. And their priority projects include the OME project. That is no different than if SANDAG were both endorsing and building the tunnels under Del Mar for the Los contracts and then claiming impartiality. Except it's not just homes on the line. This involves funding a foreign country to continue its environmental assault upon us, irreversibly harming our people's health. So I demand SANDAG removes itself from being an Otay Mesa Chamber pot minion. And at the SANDAG microtransit meeting, NCTD said the microtransit costs more than 2 times the Breeze bus, and the wait time is more than 20 minutes. When they allowed children to ride on the taxpayers' dime, wait times doubled and canceled trips increased by 13%. The most expensive project has been the neighborhood electric vehicles with only 5 passengers, the junk so many of you wanted. A bus can carry 60 people, can cover more than 10 times the distance, and cost 4 times less the price. There's a reason public transit was invented. Mario claimed microtransit is here to stay. With what evidence? SANDAG has never even provided data to prove their cost benefit. Is there an endless budget to fund this mass transit experiment? In National City, the elderly are struggling to catch a ride because the children are taking up the EV carts. NCTD's Nick said it makes sense to provide that service in areas without public transit or sidewalks. So why did SANDAG immediately focus on areas like Pacific Beach and Oceanside that already have both public transit and sidewalks? Flexible fleets are an option of convenience, not need. Is SANDAG in the business of spending our tax dollars on wants or needs? There are already accessible transit systems. I'm going to say improve what already exists. That is why people don't use it. It's not a cost. You spend more, you don't get more people. That's not how life works. Thank you.
Next is Paul the Bold online, followed by Consuelo.
On getting this entire bold. You have been seeking urban.
I'm sorry, Paul, you seem to be cutting out.
What?
Oh, you're cutting out. We can't hear you.
I don't know what.
Go ahead.
You can't hear me? What?
Go ahead. You were just cutting out. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, good luck on getting through this meeting in 2 hours. You have been so sweet-talked into approving way too many sole source contracts, so here's a little advice. No bid or sole source contracts should be used very sparingly. They are commonly used in industries like defense, healthcare, and disaster management, where specialized or urgent needs may require quick response. With all your delayed projects and bureaucratic layers, how often do you really need a quick response? Sole source can be legal when there is a valid reason for not seeking competitive bids, such as national security concerns, emergencies, specialized expertise, or when a vendor has unique tech or proprietary info. To me, unless there are security concerns, the justification should be public, and there should be a link to the contract in the minutes, like I see San Diego is doing. The absence of competitive bidding can limit market competition, potentially leading to higher costs or less innovative solutions. In fact, often big bids or contractors have the resources to do price escalation or similar, which inflate costs, like the recent San Diego garbage contracts for $50 a month when mine is only 30. Sole source can also raise questions about fairness and transparency, as the true reason for awarding them is often disguised from you and me. They can be used to favor certain vendors or lead to corruption.
Thank you, Paul. Your time has expired. Next is Consuelo, followed by Casey. Consuelo, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm going to have to do my item 5 for the last meeting for my non-agenda because I don't know what's going on. But anyways, okay, so let's be real. The majority of people aren't tracking these legislative moves, and that's exactly how local government gets away with wasting our time and our money. These status reports and vague oppose unless amended stances are designed to confuse, not to clarify. Mean what you say what you mean, as Paul said. Why are we still entertaining bills from politicians who help destroy their own cities? And why waste time on legislation that's already stalled or expired? Meanwhile, SANDAG can't even handle transit, and now they have they want to dip their greedy, dirty fingers into housing. Stay in your lane, SANDAG. Fix what you broke. This is all theater, all distraction, all waste at our expense. You acknowledge indigenous lands and talk about past abuses while still allowing those abuses to play out today, right under your noses. Homelessness, homeless veterans, mentally ill human beings wandering the streets with no support, struggling families being taxed into submission. You don't care. If you did, we'd see real solutions, not shiny PR and bloated budgets. Everything you do is about optics, not outcomes. The truth is, this is all by design, manufactured, crisis after crisis, and then come your top-down solutions we never asked for, all in lockstep with the United Nations agenda for the 21st century. You think we don't see it, but we do, and you should too. This government, this local government and beyond, does not work for the people anymore. I don't think it ever did. And the people work for the government, and that's so sad. That is the opposite of freedom. You tax us, track us, censor us, distract us, then pretend we're represented. We're not.
Thank you, Consuelo. Your time has expired. Next is Casey, followed by our last comment by Blair Beekman.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Casey.
Good morning, Chair Huebner, Vice Chair Luqadda, and members of the SANDAG Board of Directors. My name is Casey Gupta. I'm a 17-year-old high school student, and earlier this year, I led the Cashier of the Concrete campaign. We mobilized over 5,000 San Diegans to demand better transit. I'm not here as an engineer or planner, but as a daily rider whose mornings begin anxiously checking an app, whose afternoons are a race against a clock that seldom holds true, and whose evenings are spent standing shoulder to shoulder in crammed cars instead of studying or resting. Let's talk about Midcoast. At an estimated $2.1 billion, it's the single largest investment in our region's history, and rightly so in principle. But what are we getting for the price tag? It's simply not enough. With miles of new track and shiny stations, riders still ensure 15 to 30-minute waits and cars during peak hours. Investment without frequencies, promise unfulfilled. No length of rail can compensate for a schedule that leaves you stranded on a platform, hoping the next train isn't full. Vice Chair Joe LaCava, this is in your district. By contrast, boosting frequency in our 10 busiest bus corridors to a true 10-minute all-day standard would cost less than $50 million annually in operations, less than 3% of Midcoast capital expense, while immediately doubling capacity and slashing wait times in underserved neighborhoods like City Heights and Normal Heights all the way to Chula Vista. San Diego is the nation's third largest metro, yet our transit mode share sits at just 4.8%. Half of peer regions when our population grew 13% in the last decade. Under today's regional plan, we'll only see minuscule service tweaks over the next 10 years. In practical terms, this means no relief for students sprinting to finals who can't afford to arrive late, parents who are juggling childcare and double shifts, seniors who are relying on a single midday connection to reach medical appointments. Riders deserve better. I'm asking the SANDAG board to please do better.
Thank you, Casey. Your time has expired. Our last public comment is by Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. I'm beginner Blair Beekman, and I'm sorry I'm such a blowhard sometimes, but I am trying. For the ideas of best practices, to use a lot of B's to try to. I'm sorry for my words sometimes. Thanks for your patience with me. I want to find what's best, and we're dealing with some serious riot issues in LA right now that are based on a system of a way of working at the federal level that we're really angry about here at the local level, and that they have taken advantage of us here at the local level. I feel we were having problems with ICE before the raids in LA. I hope the protests this weekend in San Diego. They can be conservatively based in nature, possibly being in North County. So that means there's a chance that they're going to be peaceful and that we're going to talk about the future of law based on civil rights and human rights before law enforcement. And that's what California is best at. They're really good at working that way. And I'm hopeful here at the local level and the state, we're going to be doing that good work. So good luck how we can talk in those terms of the protests coming up this weekend and keeping it peaceful. I hope we all work to really bring down the inflammatory talk. We don't have to be inflammatory to ask for our best practices. So good luck how we all can work on that together. With my remaining time, I wanted to mention from the previous item that you were talking about transit issues and the future of a Wiener bill from the state level. He's from the Bay Area. He used to try those practices in Berkeley, believe it or not, and there was a lot of pushback. I don't exactly know where it went, but the way the president of the executive committee meeting spoke of the item, she spoke of it in concern in the same terms that was being talked about in Berkeley when he brought it to Berkeley. So really good luck. You have a good tact on how to work on the issue. Good luck on how you're approaching it. Thank you for your words and clarifications. So thanks.
That concludes our non-agenda public comment, Chair.
Sorry, with a mouthful of chocolate. And non-agenda member comments, I see Park Commissioner Malcolm would like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Just a little bit of good news. Last month, the Port of San Diego was happy to open up the Gaylord Hotel and Convention Center in Chula Vista. It was a long time coming, decades of planning. We like to call it a 2-decade overnight success, but it was opened on time, on budget, 1,600 rooms, 400,000 square foot convention center, and it's open to the public now. It's a big deal for South San Diego, and I would say actually all of San Diego, with about $500 million of annual economic impact, 4,000 jobs. Many are coming from South Bay. And I would invite all of you and your families to go down there. There's 9 restaurants down there. It is a very impressive facility, and go down and check it out. So anyway, good news for South Bay.
Thank you. Very good news. Wonderful. All right. I will now turn it over to Mario for his update.
Thank you, Chair. We have attended several meetings. Some of them were mentioned on the executive committee. The first part of this week, our planning director and elected representatives, as well as myself, attended the National Association Regional Council of Governments meeting. And I specifically attended the major metros meeting with Antoinette. It's a good point of discussing with the other major COGs, above a million population, discussing our common challenges. And is very helpful to be able to talk to your peers and find out that we're all basically dealing with the same challenges that were in different regions. So that was very helpful. Also traveled to Mexico City for what it was mentioned, the U.S.-Mexico binational bridges and border crossing to discuss cross-border infrastructure. We did have some sideline meetings to discuss pending agreements on Otay Mesa East, and not as part of the trip to State Department, but we also extended a letter to the new U.S. Ambassador in Mexico, Mr. Ronald Johnson, inviting him to come to the region to see the challenges that we have in our border region, like the Tijuana River issues. It was mentioned on the letter, to come and see our transportation infrastructure projects. So we did extend that invitation for the U.S. Ambassador. As we've been updating you, we are still monitoring the Elvira to Morena project improvement there for the emergency job. We're doing the daily monitoring and working on the contracts for the emergency repairs. I think this weekend we'll be doing some additional drilling to find more information on the geotech status of that area. The regional plan, we had our first regional plan learning session earlier this week in East County. Thank you for those attending. And we'll be hosting one in North County sub-regional workshop in Vista next Tuesday, July 17 at 5:30. Regarding the Flexible Fleet Grant Program, we're in the process of revising the grant program criteria. We learned last week that the federal funding source can only fund new flexible fleet pilot projects. We cannot use it to extend existing service like we had put out on our report. We are continuing to seek funding for those who have existing programs. We have several open comment periods. As I mentioned, we have the Lausanne notice of preparation open comment period that will close June 30th. We have the I-15 State Route 78 draft environmental document comment period that would end July 7th. And thank you for those who made also the public meeting for the I-15 and 78. And then we have our regional plan public comment period that will close on July 18. I want to extend a congratulations to Caltrans. Last night on the California Transportation Foundation, they were awarded Project of the Year for Advanced Technology. Why am I highlighting this? Because this project was to deal with wrong-way drivers that recently our county some years ago experienced several very severe accidents. So Caltrans went and did several new technologies to try to alert the public more that they're driving the wrong way. So I want to congratulate them on this award that they got. And finally, our offices will be closed June 19 for Juneteenth, as well as our customer service center. That concludes my report.
Very good. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Michael, do you have any public comments on consent?
We do have public comment, but for the record, I want to clarify staff report for item 3, that the action taken by the executive committee this morning approved taking a support position on Senate Bill 71 and an opposed position on Senate Bill 79, just for clarification.
Thank you.
And our first public comment is allegedly Audra, followed by Truth.
All right, for number 7 in your public engagement events, you know, most people, look how many people show up and, you know, call into meetings compared to 3.38 million people in the county. So I don't feel like you guys do a very good job promoting or for people to be aware of the things that you're doing. And many times these events are, like there's not that many people, but you tend to spend quite a bit of money to engage in that. And so I don't know if using local news would be a better idea to inform people, hey, this is going to be happening. I mean, people should know exactly what you're doing, not like it would really make a difference in that you would change what you're doing because the people would become aware and maybe not like it, but it's important to be transparent with the people. And as far as the policy advisory committee goes, I think you guys need to start thinking about AI technology and all of this smart technology that is not only here, but is coming, and the dangers of it, and having AI run the government and or anything for that matter, because it is all of the smart meters, the smart lights, the LEDs, the light can transmit data. It's called Li-Fi. It's faster than Wi-Fi, and it's actually detrimental to our health with having all of these smart technologies, but it's also putting us into a digital prison. And it's something that, I mean, look at China. And as I said to the executive committee, it's like, unless we're wanting to live in China and have cameras in every, like, I mean, you might as well have one up your butt, because the way that we're headed, it's very scary to think about, and it's going to imprison all of us. And I don't think that you guys take it as seriously as you should when you're like implementing things like the ALPR or the smart streetlights or the smart meters, acting like, it's beneficial to us when just the radiation
Thank
itself
you.
is detrimental.
Your time has expired. Next is Truth, followed by Patrick G. Online. Just a reminder to please identify what item you're speaking to on consent.
Item 4 on May 15th, lone Santee bicyclist John Minto represented SANDAG on Bike Anywhere Day. And he also informed me on Wednesday that I have to see him much too often to be able to miss him. Item 5, for perspective, the $8.7 million cost for the Blue Line parking structure equates to only 8 miles of bike lanes. The Encinitas Coastal Rail Trail is $18.8 million for fun. The Border at Bayshore project is about $95 million with no measure of ridership. I'm against all transit priority lanes. Nobody is a priority over another in this country. For the bus stopover, just do Robin Joy's idea. MTS already rents space for workers' break rooms, and it's not like they're incapable of building more. They recently did in El Cajon. Is MTS allowing their employees to suffer for decades because Hassan was willing to fund their bill? How many HOV lanes are going to be converted to express lanes, and who is making the decision? But thank you for the transparency of the spending, timelines, and statuses of each project. Item 7, I went to the regional plan learning session in El Cajon. I was one of about 10 people. It was very transparent on the information, admitting that some past projects were pushed without proper planning. There were applicable agencies and people to answer questions. I like the focus on local projects, but that needs to expand past the city held in to cover the entire area the session's supposed to cover. Managed lanes were finally defined, and why hasn't that been done here? There were tacos catered again, but no agua fresca this time, only water. It's kind of sad. And sad, I forgot to grab more tacos on the way out because I wasn't able to stay for the whole thing, but it was good to see Councilmember Michelle Mitchell, Roy from Caltrans, and Robin Wapner, and it was an overall positive experience, believe it or not. SANDAG either needs future sessions covering both inland and coastal North County, as well as suburban and rural East County, or there needs to be pop-up events to meet people where they're actually at. Council meetings, farmers markets, or city events where no dinners need to be provided so we could save money, be more efficient. Imagine that. Thank you.
Next is Patrick G. Online, followed by Consuelo.
Good morning, SANDAG board. My name is Patrick Grillo, and I'm a resident of El Cajon. I'm here speaking on the item to ratify the policy committee actions, item 3 on the agenda, and ask that the board to pull that item and to table the executive committee's recommendation to oppose SB 79. I'm a supporter of SB 79, and I don't think the SANDAG board needs to take a position one way or the other on this item. SB 79 helps working families by increasing the affordability of rent and of housing generally in the region. Increasing the supply of housing is a must in order to increase the affordability of housing. SB 79 allows this density and this additional housing where we've already put state and regional and local resources in place around transit centers. These areas are designed to have this sort of activity, this sort of development. This gives the development community the certainty and the lack of risk when they need to develop additional housing. By streamlining this process, it removes costs that developers face unnecessarily in these areas that are already ripe for this development. Once again, I ask the board to table the executive committee's recommendation. Thank you.
Next is Consuelo, followed by Paul the Bold. Consuelo, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So let's talk about item 7, the so-called public engagement for the 2025 regional plan. You keep pushing the narrative that you want community involvement, but the reality tells a very different story. People don't track these meetings, not because they don't care, but because the process is intentionally confusing, deliberately buried in vague language and bureaucracy. That is the design. You don't want an informed public, you want a distracted one. So it works. And as far as the Bike Anywhere Day, item 4, another thing you guys use to pat yourselves on the back while wasting money, surface level theater again. These aren't, look, I'm on the phone, honey. Oh, sorry. That's okay. Meanwhile, let's see, where did I leave off at? So those wasted time, the wasted money on the Bike Anywhere days, it's just not only it's not inclusive, I mean, to people who with disabilities, I mean, they're not tools of inclusion and they're quite honestly tools of deflection. Meanwhile, critical information is buried in jargon, timelines are rushed, and the public is left out of the real decision making. The system is not built for transparency. It's built to bypass accountability while pretending you've done your due diligence, which you haven't. So let's stop pretending SANDAG works for the people. You don't. You work to uphold an agenda, one that benefits special interests and pushes top-down control under the illusion of sustainability, equity, or public input. And we see right through it. So yeah, more and more people are waking up every day, and I am so excited about that. Done. Thank you.
Next is Paul the Bold, followed by Blair Beekman.
Paul Bold. Number 6, FDA projects. Not sure how you can approve the program without publicizing a list of projects or the apportionment and cost. At least unless it was posted at the last minute. 7, the draft regional plan. There are 2 meetings you propose in July, one for Central County and one for the unincorporated areas. Are you requesting one meeting or both? Just one does not make sense. Number 4, meetings and events. I know Mayor Minto was not the only one at Bike Anywhere Day. We should know about the activities of all of the members of this legislative body, like who won the race, who got heat stroke, who manned the other pit stops and first aid. I do appreciate that this meetings and events report has more detail than previous reports. Policy Advisory Committee. When you say the legislative status report was not ready and will be posted when complete, you could just copy in the summary from the legislative website, no problem there. And it's interesting how the report says that the committee approved a few actions for your ratification before they were actually approved. And on SB 79, increase the percent allocation of affordable units, and then let's talk. 5, quarterly projects. Downtown stopover. Stop the excuses and can the porta potties. Rent out a place like Robin Joy Maxon suggested. And on approval of the minutes, back to list of names like the Oscars and who did what on the consent agenda, which was consented to. Surprise. So quick.
Thank you, Paul. Your time has expired. Last public comment is by Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you for consent calendar items on this week's agenda. I wanted to comment on your May 23rd approval of the BOD meeting minutes. Item 7 was on funding for the future of double tracking for the Lausanne corridor. I've mentioned, hopefully it's become familiar to yourselves now, I question funding a whole double tracking the future of the area of the Lausanne, well, you know, the future area between Oceanside and I can't remember the valley right after Solano Beach, right before San Diego, right before La Jolla. Double tracking that whole area to me is uncomfortable. I'm not so happy with it if that's what's being talked about. I think making it intermittent and where freight cars can and passenger cars can stop off, I think that can be workable continuously. I think putting double tracks throughout that entire marsh area is questionable, and that we really need to question that more, and I hope we do. So with that said, I hope the Lausanne corridor issues. I attended the Del Mar Fairgrounds public meeting, SANDAG public meeting about the future of the area. It was a really good meeting. High-speed rail is not an imperative through that area, and it's not the conversation at all. So to me, that signals it's possible. Truth's idea, she's talked about it often, of trolley service from, say, San Diego up to Oceanside, and have trains go through, you know, the future high-speed corridor plan, you know, that goes through from Oceanside to Escondido to Miramar and then back to the San Diego coast. Possibly put a freight train through their rail as well, if it's not too dangerous. There's an awesome example of the most northern idea that.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Chair, that concludes our public comment on consent.
Thank you. We're now on to board member comments on consent. Mayor Sanchez.
Move approval.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second by Musgrove. Please vote.
We have to do a roll call.
Oh, that's
Chair.
right. I'm sorry. Start over, Michael.
Yeah.
Did you start with me?
Go down alphabetically.
Okay.
We'll start with City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Shin.
Present, aye.
City of Chula Vista, Deputy Mayor Chavez.
Yes.
City of Coronado, Mayor Duncan.
Aye.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterlin.
Aye.
City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells. City of Encinitas, Councilmember San Antonio. City of Escondido, Mayor White.
Yes.
City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Fisher.
Yes.
City of La Mesa is absent. City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Snow.
Aye.
City of National City, Councilmember Molina.
Yes.
City of Oceanside, Mayor Sanchez.
Yes.
City of Poway, Mayor Voss is absent. City of San Diego, Council President Vice Chair LaCava.
Yes.
City of San Marcos, Councilmember Musgrove.
Aye.
City of Santee, Second Vice Chair Minto.
Aye.
City of Solana Beach, Chair Hebner.
Yes.
City of Vista, Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Aye.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Anderson. And can you also vote on your clickers, just for the. And the motion passes with those members present. Thank you.
Very good. We'll now move to the proposed fiscal year 26 budget amendment. I'll turn it over to Don Vates. Mario, did you have anything you wanted to start with, though?
Yes, this item is basically, as the team is going to present it, it comes as we review our bond covenants and the requirements, the coverages that we need to submit. And in that aspect, the team takes a deep dive and takes a snapshot of exactly where we are today, both with revenues as well as expenditures. And as I mentioned in prior meetings, we are looking and we will come and provide a report on the back office that were delayed. And that delay is also impacts the plan of finance or the expenditures are being pushed. So there are many moving pieces, but this is basically to be in compliance with our bond covenants. And Don and Kim put it in a more eloquent manner, so I'll let them move forward with their presentation.
Great, thank you, Mario. So, you know, as you're aware, you just adopted your final budget May 9th. The budget is a plan and a controlling document that reflects our anticipated expenditures and revenues. And adoption of that budget was really the culmination of work that began in the fall of 2024. The draft budget was presented in March, and then we have just a little time to make any changes, you know, by early April for that adoption deadline. Typical draft to final budget changes incorporate new information. One of the things that is usually incorporated is the fact that this board adopts Transnet and TDA revenue estimates, for example, in February that we finalize in about December when the draft budget's already been a little bit baked. So we make adjustments for the final budget for things like that. And we look more closely at things like our capital projects that might be going into construction to be sure that we have the most current cost estimates. So that's usually what you see in draft to final budget changes. Again, it's a long process to develop the budget, which is our, as Mario said, when it was adopted, point in time snapshot. What is before you today in this item is a proposed program budget amendment for State Route 125 operations. And I want to make sure that I'm making this distinction here. This is the State Route 125 operations budget. It is not the budget for the capital project. Mario's mentioned some delays in that capital project. There are some impacts on operations, but that capital project budget is not what we are proposing to amend today. And so this change that we are asking you to make today to the operations budget is needed really, I'm going to be very frank with you, due to a simple mistake that we identified during development of our annual operation plan. We are required to submit this plan by July 1st to our trustee of the bonds, and it's information we provide to investors. And we identified that there had been a mistake when Mario talks about bond covenants, other things. These are really just our responsibilities to assure investors about, you know, their security of their investments. And so we do provide this annual operations plan and our final budget every year by July 1st to the trustee, and she makes that available to all of the bondholders. So I am going to circle back when Kim is done just to talk about some things we're doing to tighten things up to make sure I'm not here in June again, immediately following adoption of that budget. But with that, I'll pass it on to Kim.
Thank you. Good morning, Kimberly Trammell, Director of Accounting and Finance. So just generally with the issuance of bonds, you commit the organization to certain financial requirements and reporting commitments. And this bond is in relation to the SR 125 toll facility. So one of the commitments is an annual operations plan, and we also have to provide SANDAG's final budget before the beginning of each fiscal year, so before July 1st. As staff was working on preparing this annual operations plan, we identified an error in the fiscal year 26 annual budget for the SR 125 facility. The proposed action before the board today is fairly complicated, but we'll get into the technical details, but essentially we found a mistake that left out some revenues from the annual budget. We're correcting this mistake, but it's also providing an opportunity for us to update the financial data points based on new information that wasn't available when the SANDAG budget was being finalized. As Don mentioned, the FY26 annual budget is a fairly long process that begins in the fall, and sometimes this information can become stale before we actually finalize the budget and print it. So it's nice to have this opportunity to provide the most up-to-date information or numbers based on the most up-to-date information we have, which is what we should be providing to our bondholders and our trustee as part of the operations plan and the budget submitted to them. So the operations plan is a multi-year forward-looking document of revenues, expenditures, reserves, and our bond coverage ratios. Based on this review, we're recommending 4 changes to the FY26 budget. And we did a comprehensive review of all of the components. So, sorry, this slide's a little busy, but it breaks down the 4 different components. And so, as I said, I'll describe those in detail. The first is to fully fund our operations and maintenance reserve fund. The reserve policy adopted by the board in 2017 when the bonds were issued requires the next 2 years of operations and maintenance expenditures to be held in a reserve fund. Based on the projected level of future year operating expenses, so fiscal year 27 and 28, additional dollars need to be added to the O&M reserve fund in fiscal year 26, the year that starts July 1st. The amount that was in the original budget was not enough to meet this reserve requirement. So the recommendation is to have 8.8 million added to that reserve. The second part is the change in operating revenues. There's 4 sources of revenues essentially in our SR 125 toll road fund. Those 4 sources include the tolls that are charged when you use the road, violations from users that don't pay on the road or via fast track, other revenues from administrative fees, and investment earnings. The fiscal year 26 budget only included the first of these 4 sources. That was the error we identified. The proposed amendment increases revenues by 5.4 million, which is to reflect the violation and the fee revenues. This also included updated revenue information based on year-to-date actuals through March. So that's one of the data points that wouldn't have been available when we were putting together the FY26 budget. And we have additional updated violation payment data that was actually also incorporated. The revised revenue budget amendment does not reflect additional projected toll revenues from trips. Overall, the revenue projections have not significantly changed since the estimates included in the October 2024 board report discussing the potential payoff of the bonds. This is just to reflect the multiple revenue sources in the actual FY26 budget. Our third piece of the budget amendment is to reduce the SR 125 expenditure budget by 3.6 million to a revised total budget of 36.4 million. The fiscal year 26 work plan included one-time operation expenses to support the back office system transition, not related to the capital project, but related to the customer experience with this change. So some of the expenses were additional transponders that customers could purchase, additional postage costs, and ramping up customer service staff to address customer inquiries. The proposed budget amendment reflects the estimated change in timing of the new back office system to occur later in this upcoming fiscal year, as mentioned in our last few CEO updates and in the introduction of this item. These expenses supporting the change for the customer experience will still occur, but they'll be later in fiscal year 26 or going into fiscal year 27. The fourth and final item involves the flow of funds that is part of our bonds for the SR 125 roadway. As shown on the slide, you have a flow of funds that we have to follow and is part of the bond requirements. We start with the revenues that come in, and the revenues must first go to fund our operations and maintenance expenses. once we've funded our operations and maintenance expenses, we're going to fund our debt, our annual debt service payment. And then from there, you're going to fund the operation and maintenance reserve fund. As I mentioned, there's a policy for 2 years worth of operations and maintenance in that fund. So the last piece where the funds flow after we've done those things is called a capital expenditure fund. And so that's the last piece of this budget amendment. It would add $1 million to that capital expenditure fund. Think of the capital expenditure fund as money set aside for future capital projects. Basically, when we have capital activity, it flows out of this fund. And when we have money at the end of this flow that we are showing here, money flows into the capital expenditure fund. So it's for future capital projects. The 3 adjustments described before this fourth and final one allowed us to be able to put some of the money aside into this capital expenditure fund. There was not anything included previously in the adopted budget. The proposed amendments ensure that the fiscal year 26 SR 125 toll facility budget addresses the bond coverage requirements and the reserve policy. The amendments do not impact the anticipated timing of the early payoff of the 2017 bonds that was discussed with the board in October of 24. With that, the Board of Directors is asked to approve an amendment to the fiscal year 26 program budget for the SR 125 facility operations as detailed in attachments 1 and 2. The budget will put $8.8 million in the operations and maintenance reserves, increase budgeted revenues $5.4 million to $46.2 million, reduce the program expenditures by $3.6 million to $36.4 million, and contribute $1 million to the capital expenditure fund. Just to reiterate all of that.
All right. So like I said, I kind of want to circle back now. So we've taken the last couple of weeks to really look at our budget development process for the operations budget and identify gaps that we know now really need to be filled. Mario has talked about, you know, connecting dots, right? Not operating in silos. There are different areas working on different functions, like the operations plan versus the budget development and so forth. So we are looking at, you know, we've identified some gaps. We also have currently a review underway by the independent performance auditor of all financial services functions, including budget development. And we have all been you know, having interviews with those consultants and really discussing what our processes are so they can help us tighten them up and improve them. So we're looking forward to that report and being able to, you know, adapt our processes to really make sure that we don't have gaps like this. We really need the right controls in place at the right points in our processes so that we can prevent errors like this going forward. This is a simple error that happened, you know, really human error, but we really need to put the process in place to prevent it. I also want to mention that we've had a lot of discussions here at the board about our internal controls director position. We are hopeful, right? I believe we're getting somebody to come on board early in July, and that position really is going to be looking at issues like this as well, helping us make sure, again, that we identify these gaps and we put the preventive controls in place. I'll pass it back to you, Chair.
Very good. Thank you so much, Dawn and Kimberly. We'll go to public comments now. Michael?
Yes, Chair. First public comment is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra.
Cesar Javier. I am just imagining pointers like 1 in the maintenance sphere. Who is responsible on this cleanup of that space along 125 left and right? Is it the jurisdiction of that particular city? Number 2, in this concrete jungle, the aspect of risk management, because that intersection, if I may say it, 94 and 125 for some reasons, people jump from that point down. Is that part of that projected expenditure to respond to this risk management, accidents or whatever? Point 3, 1 to 5 is a very good lesson on mobility or circulation, and therefore, as population explodes, most likely to the easternboard. Is there any other provision similar to 1 to 5? Circulation, or we call highway? Those are the things that is pondering into your humble mind, our mind as community learners. Thank you, Sandag.
Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Truth.
All right. Promises made and promises not kept. You guys love to engage in fraud, waste, and abuse. And it's like, you're supposed to get rid of this and you're never going to, because we're going to bring in more toll roads, right? Managed lanes, and charge people more to get around, to keep us in our little zones, right? Has nothing to do with smart cities or 15-minute cities at all, not at all. But it's interesting to be looking at the money that you guys have coming in, because it's like you sit here and you take it and you put it all over the place. Let's move it around, right? And you could be just paying it off so we could get out of it. But obviously that is, again, not your plan. But, how do you, determine that this revenue is going to be like 8.2 million more in this year, and then 4.5 million next year? I'm not sure how you're doing that data. Are you just assuming? Are we just assuming more people are going to be paying for that? Who knows? But it's not like people get any answers anyway. And I mean, we could save some money by getting rid of it, because you're paying all these salaries and stuff just to do it. And we've already had fraud, waste, and abuse be exposed with that. And it's unfortunate that it actually had to come out in the public, but for you guys to do anything about it. And obviously we're, under new leadership, but it's just unfortunate that you guys make promises to the people and you don't keep them. And then you implement more things that are much of the same. And if you can't be trusted with this, how can we trust that when you bring in more managed lanes and toll roads, that the same isn't going to happen? And, it's just unfortunate when you guys talk about, wanting to make things easier on people, and all we do is raise the taxes, the fees, and anything and everything under the sun to put people in a position where they're not even able to afford to live here. So I don't know if your plan is to get them out of here, because it's working pretty good. But you guys just need to be more mindful of the things and actions you guys take that are detrimental to
Thank you.
people.
Your time has expired. Next is Truth, followed by Paul the Bold online.
Is there going to be a timer on how long those board members living in Chula Vista get to speak on this item? Because this toll facility is a bond indenture, broken record, with our money. That serves as evidence that SANDAG should never again look to waste our tax dollars on toll roads. As Jack once famously said, get the heck out of the toll business, and I did edit it. Remove all managed toll lanes from the regional plan. That would be a preventative measure on corruption, coercion, and extortion via taxing something we already paid for with our taxes. Why are the revised revenue estimates lower than what was presented at the October 25th meeting? Does that mean it was another SANDAG model that failed to be accurate? Is there a way for staff to estimate way lower on everything so that we can have more accurate, happy results? Buying new transponders, what was wrong with the past ones? Were new transponders required for the new back office system? Could they not be reprogrammed? Is the reserve the same concept as having a 10% contingency in case more goes wrong or it takes even longer to fix? This whole thing probably would have been resolved already if you guys hadn't voted for that sole source monopoly contract with Deloitte and A to B that I remember warning you very clearly not to do. There's also almost $14 million in debt payments still owed, while somebody's collecting $9.5 million in salaries and benefits. That's more than half of the debt owed. And yet Don said there's going to be another position. Well, over $48.6 million was spent on this pet project that was supposed to be removed long ago to benefit somebody. and tax every other neighborhood via every other highway instead. And when you see that big picture, it makes sense why Minto voted no to removing the 125 toll. This is like a big scam theater show going on that some people are probably going to campaign on. And what's never been addressed are the projects I heard Mayor Ron Morrison bring up at a joint committee that were shoved to the side to pay for this toll facility. When is SANDAG going to address what is now owed to those communities that were deprived of projects? That's what needs to be a discussion item, not this. This isn't even an update. We need to hear what happened to what was not done. Thank you.
Next is Paul the Bold, followed by Blair Beekman.
Okay, Paul the Bold, if you haven't learned anything at all from all of the audits over the past years, this is one way the waste, fraud, and abuse begins. Inflated or unsupported estimates. Cost projections here have no actuals or other supporting docs to base these on. The attached work element chart has only some quote estimated actual unquote figures for 2024. No actuals yet, and budget for FY25. The absence of actual figures or salaries for FY24 even suggests that this is not based in reality. So in FY26, you expect $6 million more, 15% in total revenue, while cutting salaries by $1 million, not to mention materials and equipment by $700,000. How do you expect this? You will need either more equipment or more paper if you're getting more tolls, unless you plan to increase the tolls way over the cost of living. And you expect $4 million more, about 67% of other direct costs in either the FY24 or 25 budget. This needs a good explanation too. I don't know about slashing contracted services by $700,000 after all of the contract problems you've had, with things not working or totally wrong. Did you take the audits into account? And do you expect to pull 800,000 more from O&M reserves when there are so many other deserving projects? And
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Consuelo.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thank you for this item. Hopefully I can be short for this item. Good public comment for this item, by the way. Thank you. I just wanted to offer the ideas of working on the future of accountability for the toll road project. And just a reminder, if we're afraid to ask questions, I hope we don't have to be so afraid. You know, even when we say the words, we don't have to be afraid anymore. We're still afraid. So good luck that we can practice accountability with this item and talk with each other as needed. And those conversations don't have to be fearful. And like I said, good public comment today to help the questioning process along. And good luck in how we're talking about this item. Thank you.
And our last public comment, Consuelo, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I think the previous speakers just kind of covered all of it. Just a shame that, you know, all this money and you know, talk about fraud, waste, and abuse, and we have a special election coming up. How many millions and millions are going to be poured into something that somebody who claimed to have cared about her county and city and constituents just up and left? Such a shame, such waste.
Consuelo, keep on the topic, please.
Okay. Yeah, so basically everybody just covered what I wanted to say, and I'm falling asleep. So there you go. Happy Friday.
That
Done.
concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we're now on to board member comments. Councilmember Musgrove.
Thank you, Chair. A quick question. You answered part of it for me when you mentioned it was human error. Can you specifically state if that was data entry or forecasting or something else, perhaps?
It appears it simply was data entry, a single point that was the toll revenue instead of the single point that was the toll revenue violation fee interest was plugged into the number in the budget. So it was the wrong data point within the revenues.
What actions were taken by this board based on that estimation and that data entry error? And how does that impact the bond rating?
At this point, we're here with the budget. I mean, it shouldn't affect the bond rating. We're here to propose the correction to that data point and get the budget right and fund the operation and maintenance reserve appropriately. If we don't do that, it could impact our credit rating.
But what I want to highlight is we put in the budget the revenues, the forecasted revenues for the tolls. The item that wasn't included was the potential revenues or forecasted revenues for the penalties when somebody doesn't pay, and also the investments that generate all those funds, the reserve funds that were mentioned. The money is there and it's generating interest until it gets used. So the forecast of the potential interest that the money in the reserves wasn't included as a potential revenue. So that those fees weren't included in what could be also forecasted of revenues. So it was underestimated, let's put it in, or underreported the potential revenue. So they're being forecast as higher at this time.
So it doesn't sound like we made any decisions based on that other than approve the budget with those numbers, which are now being corrected with this amendment.
Okay, and I recall one of my many subcommittees, transportation, planning, audit, that the 125 was just effectively a living nightmare. And in one particular meeting, the question was brought up, why don't we give it back to Caltrans? And the Caltrans rep said that in its current state, it was not something they could support because it was not designed as a highway or interstate on and off ramps. It's designed as a toll road. So there is maintenance. Is that maintenance factored into this operating budget? Has there an analysis been conducted on what would need to happen to keep it serviceable? Or if there is if there is a plan down the road to transfer it to Caltrans, what would that entail?
I'm going to let Mario take this because we have another effort underway with Caltrans to look at what that would take.
So we will be coming with multiple meetings and presentations, one on the back office and the scheduled delays on that. But talking about the transfer of the facility, I want to put in some information markers that have already been discussed. The first call to be able to make like payments on the bonds is 2027. So right now, we would even put in the $1 million that it's being put in the capital reserve. It doesn't lower your interest or anything like that, because the first call to make additional payments is in 2027. So right now, it's better to put those additional forecasted funds, if they materialize, in an investment fund that would generate revenue. So that's one point that I want to clarify. The other point about the transfer. As we said, the first call is 2027. There was a sketch forecast that the earliest that we could pay based on forecasted revenues could be around 2030. And don't hold my feet to the fire on that one. We will be coming with updated numbers and plans. But let's say 2030, but that's to pay how much is owed on the bonds. But then we also have to have a conversation with Caltrans, similar to when Caltrans relinquishes a highway to a city. It also works the other way, which is the word called state of good repair. So the department would require us to have it in a state of good repair whenever that happens. So that right now there's an effort that you all approve a budget to do a project implementation document where that Caltrans is right now assessing what would be those improvements that would be required. And it's quantifying it monetarily to tell us how much it would cost to get that road into state of good repair. So once we have that number and we have our forecast that when we can pay the road, we have to add to that the state of good repair to put it in get revenues for that, put it into state of good repair and pass it on to the state if the board so desires. So that's the exercise that we're doing right now with Caltrans assessing the cost, as well as us, we will be coming to present several scenarios. It could be, and because the board asked us to develop those scenarios, what would be if you pay it off as early as possible? What strategies could be if you charge tolls only at certain times? You know, different strategies of how to get to the point where you want to get to. So we are working on bringing that information to the board as soon as we can get it and Caltrans finishes their assessment of state of good repair and the cost of it.
So that particular roadway is quite a few years old, and when it was built, it was designed specifically for a toll road. But assuming the specs were not too dissimilar from what Caltrans would expect, so the state of good repair is not going to be based on when the road was first conceived, but at a particular point in time once they complete their assessment. And then is there a lifespan on that? Because if they tell us this is what it will cost to bring it up to spec for us to receive, but it takes us 5 or 10 years to get there, are we then held to, okay, this is the transfer date, now these are the specs? Because we have to deal with retrofitting, seismic issues, EIRs based on what's going on in the particular area. This is all very fluid. It just sounds extremely expensive no matter how we cut it.
We have to wait and see what the department Caltrans comes over. My expectation is state of good repair is not bringing it up to date standards. State of good repair is that the pavement is in adequate shape, as well as the hydraulic infrastructure. Now, if there is any existing structural issues that need to be addressed, we can have that discussion. But the roadway was designed to state standards. And if for whatever reason, some of the standards, let's say spacing of interchanges is different, you get grandfathered in when you have already built it and you built it in that day, it was within standards. So state to good repair, I think what we're really going to be focusing is on the pavement life, the hydraulics of it, as well as the structural integrity. And that doesn't mean retrofitting an entire bridge, but looking that they're in a good state based on the seismic calculations and all that. So Caltrans is doing that report right now.
Do we have an estimate when that report will be ready?
I think it was it's going to be a couple of months, but Antoinette, do you have that info? Yeah.
Okay, so this calendar year.
Oh, for sure. For sure. We need to come back with the options and the assessments, and we need to come back with a back office update.
Okay, and I'll just close by saying that regardless of how we approach this cannot be something that is placed on the shoulders and the back of the residents of San Diego County for the benefit of a very select community to ensure that either free roads are available or the toll is adjusted one way or the other. This is a decision that we all have to endure. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Chavez.
And unfortunately, I'm the one who has to voice the concerns because there's very few of us that live in South County, but we house so many people coming every single day northbound to work. So having an hour wait time on the 805 or the 5, unfortunately, I have to voice that concern. And it's just not just for Chula Vista, but parts of Imperial Beach, San Diego County. we grandfather in this 100,000 people that come every single day northbound. So unfortunately, I have to voice that concern. And thank you for touching on many points that I wanted to talk about. And I'm just going to ask for thank staff for all the hard work they do. And but I do want to mention that this past October, we received a report that the funding gap for the SR 125 would be 17.8 million at the call date in 2027. Is that correct? And
I'm
as you
just
look for
pulling up
that,
the report to make sure yes, 17.8 at the call date, which is where we are estimating the 2030 payoff could happen.
So, and again, this is money that is coming from the same tools, and I don't see how it would not benefit the county or take away from the county or from other regions when we're collecting this money. Is that correct? I mean, aside from the funding we've gotten already from a few state assembly members and Senate and.
Sorry, can you clarify the question?
I think I can answer that one.
Yeah.
So the report you're going to get for us to pay off this road is going to be based solely on the revenues that the toll road has.
Exactly.
Yes, that's a point there. We will also bring up in our report potentially what would that do to greenhouse emission targets and all that. But it will be a comprehensive report. I have to stress that in the current regional plan that it's right now being the draft that's being circulated, it shows that this facility will not have tolls in the future. So it's already have been included in the RTP as a vision.
And so my final question would be, we normally allocated an average of 2 million contributions in other years of the SR 125 facility operations. Why do we have 8 million this year?
So your operations and maintenance reserve is cumulative. And so what how much we have to fund is based on fiscal year 27 and 28 projected operation and maintenance expenses. What we've found is we're projecting those operations and maintenance expenses will be higher in 27 and 28, in part because of what we're doing is we're moving out some of those kind of hypercare customer related to changes in the back office system items into 27. So that's increased some of our operation and maintenance expenses. We also have been paying for our roadside and other maintenance costs out of a capital budget in prior years because those projects were active. We hadn't accepted the systems. And so those expenses need to move into the operations and maintenance budget because now we're just paying for ongoing maintenance. We had done that in the fiscal year 26 budget that was adopted, but we hadn't updated the operations and maintenance reserve to reflect that change.
And go ahead.
So, and it was very clear, but the forecasted expenditures were there. Now they're being put in the column of operations and maintenance, and therefore the covenants require that we put it as a reserve for 2 years in advance in case of, let's say, another pandemic. And therefore the bondholders want to know that we have enough money to be able to pay the bills for operations and maintenance for the next 2 years. That it's a reserve that it's in there.
Okay.
I would just like to add that, in addition to things like the roadside system moving from a capital project expenditure to an accepted roadside system that is now an operational cost, costs are just rising. Everything's more expensive. And so the operation budgets are increasing, and that 2-year rule is applying to these increased budgets.
And maybe just a reminder, those reserve funds are part of the payoff calculations. They're part of the money that's available to pay off the bonds. So even though they're held in a reserve, they are part of the funds we're looking at to determine when the bonds could be paid off.
They're just accumulating interest to be set back. Well, I look forward to seeing this report come back and having an open dialogue about this new position that's going to be added moving forward. And thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you very much. So if no further discussion, may I have a motion to approve the budget amendment? Oh, sorry. Councilmember LaCava.
Oh, I was going to exactly do that. Thank you for the presentation, my colleagues' questions and your responses. Clearly, there's a lot more conversations on 125, but for today's action, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Wait a second, the motion.
Okay, second by Duncan. Please vote. I will do your clickers as the roll call is being done.
Yes, thank you, Chair. City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Shin.
Aye.
City of Chula Vista, Deputy Mayor Chavez. City of Chula Vista, Deputy Mayor Chavez.
Aye.
City of Coronado, Mayor Duncan.
Aye.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterlin.
Yeah, aye.
City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells. That's an aye. Okay. City of Encinitas, Councilmember San Antonio.
Aye.
Aye. City of Escondido, Mayor White.
Aye.
City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Fisher.
Aye.
City of La Mesa is absent. City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Snow.
Aye.
City of National City, Councilmember Molina.
Yes.
City of Oceanside, Mayor Sanchez.
Yes.
City of Poway is absent. City of San Diego, Vice Chair LaCava. City of San Marcos, Councilmember Musgrove.
Aye.
City of Santee, Second Vice Chair Minto. City of Solana Beach, Chair Huebner.
Yes.
City of Vista, Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Aye.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Anderson.
San Marcos, can you please press your clicker to your vote? Ed? Very good. Okay.
The motion passes with those members present.
All right, very good. So we're going to defer the next item to next agenda, which is pretty light. And I will conclude our meeting. The next Board of Directors meetings will be June 27th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.